Welcome to Marketplace Media, an online platform that engages, equips, and encourages believers to say, Ina Uwezekana. My name is John Kimani. It's my hope that your Sunday was well. This is Marketplace Media, and we are doing what we call leadership lessons from unlikely leaders. We have picked our passage from the book of Second Kings, chapter that is chapter 5, verse number 1, and we shall continue with the reading. That is, let's read. Naaman was the commander of the Syrian army. The Lord had helped him and his troops to defeat his enemies. And so the king of Syria respected Naaman very much. Naaman was a brave soldier, but he had leprosy. One day, we read, while the Syrian troops were raiding Israel, they captured Agar, and she became a servant of Naaman's wife. Some time later, the girl said, if your husband Naaman would go to the prophet in Samaria, he would be cured of his leprosy. When Naaman told the king what the girl had said, the king replied, go ahead, I'll give you a letter to take to the king of Israel. Naaman left and took along 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, and 10 outfits. He also carried a letter to the king of Israel. It said, if I am sending my servant Naaman to you, would you cure him of his leprosy? When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes in fear and shouted, that Syrian king believes I can cure this man of leprosy. Does he think I am God with the power over life and death? He must be trying to pick a fight with me. As soon as Elisha the prophet heard what had happened, he sent the Israelite king this message. Why are you so afraid? Send the man to me so that you know that there is prophet in Israel. Naaman left his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent someone outside to say to him, go wash 7 times in Jordan River, then you'll be completely cured. But Naaman stopped off, grumbling. Why couldn't he come out and talk to me? I thought for sure he would stand in front of me and pray to the Lord, his God, then wave his hand over my skin and cure me. What about Abana River or the Pafla River? Those rivers in Damascus are just as good as any river in Israel. I could have washed in them and be cured. His servants went over him and said, sir, if the prophet had told you to do something difficult, you would have done it. So why would you do what he said? Go, wash, and be cured. Naaman walked down to the Jordan. He waded out into the water and stooped down in it 7 times, just as Elisha had told him. Right away, he was cured, and his skin became as smooth as child's. Naaman and his officials went back to Elisha. Naaman stood in front of him and announced, now I know that God of Israel is the only God in the whole world. Sir, would you please accept a gift from me? I am a servant of the living God. Elisha answered, and I swear that I will not take anything from you. Naaman kept begging, but Elisha kept refusing. Finally, Naaman said, if you won't accept a gift, then please let me take home as much as soil as 2 mules can pull in a wagon. Sir, from now I will offer sacrifices only to the Lord. But I pray that the Lord will forgive me when I go into the temple of the Rimmon and bow down there with the king of Assyria. Go on and don't worry about that, Elisha replied. Then Naaman left. After Mana had gone only a short distance, Gehazi said to himself, Elisha left the Syrian off too easy. He should have taken the Naaman's gift. I swear by the living God, I'll talk to Naaman myself and get something to himself. So he hurried after Naaman. When Naaman saw Gehazi running after him, he got out of his chariot to meet him. Naaman asked, "Is everything all right?" "Yes," Gehazi answered, "but my master has sent me to tell you about two young prophets from the hills of Ephraim. They came asking for help, and now Elisha wants to know if you'd give them about 75 pounds of silver and some new clothes." "Sure," Naaman replied. "But why don't you take twice that amount of silver?" He convinced Gehazi to take it all. Then he put silver into 2 bags and handed the bags and clothes to his servants, and they carried them to Gehazi. Very interesting story there that we learn. And allow us to pick a few leadership lessons that we pick from this book. Now we should say that this the book of Kings was originally one book, and it just contains stories, it contains records and lessons of leadership. There are some kings who actually were bad kings, they were wicked, they did that which did not please God, and the aftermath of it is seen. But again, there were also good kings who read well, and we see also the effect of good governance. But even more interesting, we also learn about Elisha and Elijah. Elijah the Tishbite, and then who handed over also to Elisha. And in this case, we are talking about Elisha, the man of God who was serving at the time. We should say 2 Kings is written at a time when the Assyrians, or when the northern kingdom, was actually getting weak and was being surrendering very easily and very quickly thanks to their disobedience to God. And God was allowing Syria to overthrow and to take over Israelite, that is the northern kingdom. And this speaks to us that every time when we choose not to obey the Lord, every time when we choose to go against what the Lord would want to do in our own lives, then he gives us over to the evil one. This is Marketplace Media, an online platform that engages, equips, and encourages believers to say, inawezekana. If this is your first time being here, we encourage you to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, so that every time when we upload a new video, YouTube will be able to notify you. Now, what lessons do we pick from this book? What lessons do we pick from this book? We want to share the following. Lesson number 1, pride makes us miss breakthrough. Pride makes us miss breakthrough. If you look at the life of Naaman, when he came, we see he was a successful, he was a winner, he was just celebrated. He was the celeb around Syria. And the beautiful thing is that the Lord had helped him to win over the chosen nation of Israel. And so when he goes to be healed, he goes with a full entourage. He goes with lots of money. He goes with that dignity. Despite that he was suffering from a deadly, incurable disease, the truth of the matter is that he went with a lot of pride, with a lot of arrogance. He went full of himself. And he went and actually stood outside Elisha's house. By the way, he had the deep state backing. He went with a letter. He went loaded with money. He went with a whole entourage, which means he was somebody that was big. He was somebody that was respected, as we see. And when he stands before the man of God, we believe he expected that the man of God would come and meet with him. Look at that kind of arrogance, that he goes and stands outside there instead of entering and humbling himself before the man of God. What he does is that he goes out there and stands. The other thing, when the man of God actually gives him the instructions to go and dip himself which is which we call tabar, dipping himself in Hebrew. We see that he was so angry. He walked out angry and in show of defiance. In other words, he is very angry that he is not treated with respect. In fact, he laments. He runs around and says, I thought that you'd come out and wave at me and treat me as I am. But Elisha does not give him those honors. He simply says, go and dip yourself into the Jordan River 7 times. And maybe it is in this backdrop that maybe we can develop a teaching on how pastors need to handle the political class. Forgive us for saying this, but I think at times the pastors and the clergy at large have gone have gone way beyond into actually giving unwarranted respect and honor to the political class to a point whereby maybe we are worshiping him. In this very case, we see Elisha failing to do it. He simply ministers to his need and doesn't need actually encourage a lot of dialogue and conversation. He simply says, go out there and dip yourself out there. Something that actually angers, something that actually offends this Naaman who was leprous. Pride will make us to miss breakthrough. And it is very important for us, whether you are in civil service or whether you are in business or whether you are in church. It is very important for us to remember that every day we need to not to feel qualified. We need to feel not entitled. We do not need to have that sense that we've already arrived. We don't need to feel that sense like we are the top of the world. Nani kama sisi. We need to feel that we are getting qualified for the job. Every time when they appoint you or give you a responsibility, you must remember the late Kibaki's definition of leadership, which is leadership is not an opportunity to show how big or how great you are, but leadership is an opportunity to serve others. In fact, if you are in a position of leadership, and it doesn't matter whether it is in corporate, it doesn't matter whether it's in civil service, it doesn't matter whether it is in church, leadership is a position that God has given to us so that we can continue serving others. If you feel something different, it simply means that you are not leading, you are doing something different. Remember, pride comes after the fall. Ask Satan why he was thrown out from the glory. He will tell you it is because of him feeling too much of himself, feeling too big himself, nani kama sisi. If you ask Nebuchadnezzar why he went into the forest and ate grass for 7 good years, he will tell you it's because he thought he was too big. He thought he was too full of himself and thought that everybody is nobody and nothing. Pride is something that will make you and me to miss breakthrough into our own lives. And so, if you're feeling too much of yourself, and that is one of the quickest acid tests of being proud and arrogant, is using I, me, and mine. We call it the selfish trinity. I, mine, and I, mine, and mine. When you use those words in every conversation that you find yourself saying my, I, mine, then it simply means you are possessed with this. Just a while ago, I had somebody telling other people mine, this, mine. That kind of conversation needs to stop. We need to be speaking about us. And we need to realize that if God has allowed you to be in a position of power, you are the governor, you are the president, you are the MCA, you are the lead pastor, you are the bishop, you are the CEO of a company. We need to recognize that it is God who have allowed us. And just as one singer said, we need to say, Ni neema tu. It is only by grace that we are what we are. So this leadership lesson number 1 is that pride makes us to be breakthrough. Can God help us to be humble? Lesson number 2 that we pick from unlikely leader is God never works in our own ways. God never works in our own ways. And this was what Naaman thought. He thought that God would work his own way, because he is expecting that Elisha would come out and wave at him and greet him and just have a conversation with him. But Elisha does not fit into that kind of narrative. He actually sends somebody else and tells him, go and tell him to go out there and dip himself into Jordan River. Well, when we look at Elisha, we see him as a delegator, somebody who believes in his assistant, and he offers this blessed opportunity to be able to, he gave this opportunity to somebody who was lesser than him. And the ministry and leadership is about giving other people the opportunity to do that which we can do. It's about helping other people to thrive, to be able to lead as we mentor them. We have this kind of what we call pastor everything. Pastor everything kind of a syndrome is where a pastor or where a CEO or where a governor would want to do everything while everybody is watching. We need to say it clear here that leadership is like a football pitch whereby we have 12 players and everybody is doing the praying. Everybody is chasing the ball. It's about teamwork. God has invested and given you such a huge responsibility that you cannot be able to execute it single-handedly. And so it is very important for us to be able to understand that you need the help of other people. Elisha, though he had the opportunity to go and minister, to go and communicate with Naaman, he chose to send somebody else. In other words, his leadership is a shared kind of a leadership. You do not want as a leader to make yourself, to uplift yourself to the level of a demigod, that everything must be done with you being present. You must be able to recognize the potential, the ability, the capacity from other people and allow them to do that which you can do, because you need to remember you are not indispensable. We need to tell you that every leadership is temporal, but the impact that you make in lives of people will be permanent. And so it is very important for you to allow other people to shine even when you are on the seat. Remember, it is not what you do, it is not you doing it that really matters. It is helping others that are below you to do it and giving them confidence and inspiring into them that they can also do it. Lesson number 3. So God never worked in ways that we think. Naaman thought that this was the style of doing it, but Elisha had different ways. And we cannot be able to fit God into a box. God has his own way of reaching to us. God has his own way of helping you to meet that financial need. God works in mysterious ways, and he is in there for a surprise. Lesson number 3, you can only be successful if those close to you want you. You can only be successful if those who are close to you want you. Now, when Naaman was angry and ranted and did not want to go and follow Elisha's instructions, we see his servants actually worked overdrive. They went and literally begged him and persuaded him and actually told him, hey, man of God, sir, please do that which the man of God has told you to do. These were men that wanted Naaman to win. And they gave him advice, and they gave him suggestion and ideas. They implored him, they urged him, they actually pushed him and encouraged him to follow the man of God instruction. What kind of people are you surrounded with? Are you surrounded with by people who actually loves you, by people who care about you? Let me ask you a question. If today you are in trouble and you pick up your phone, how many people can you call and they would without reservation, come and help you? Those are the kind of people that you need to surround yourself with. Naaman, part of his success came because he was surrounded by men who actually believed in him, men who wanted him to succeed, men who actually would do anything to make him become a winner. And you need, as a leader, to surround yourself with winners. You need to surround yourself with solution finders. You need to surround yourself with the people who are not interested in them shining, but people who want to make you to go to the top. In the event, when we look at Naaman's success and healing, that miracle came not because Naaman actually believed, but because he was encouraged and pushed by his assistant. What kind of an assistant? What kind of a deputy? What kind of a follower are you to your leader? Do you offer advice? Do you offer your time? Do you offer a kind of a conversation that would make your leader to win? Or do you trap? Or do you deceive? Or do you present facts in a way that would make the leader there to fail? Let us remind you this evening, our dear viewer, that every time when you give wrong advice to the leader, then what is going to happen is that this organization is going to crumble. Your organization may not have hired you as an advisor, but it is paramount that the kind of advice that you give to the leader there, it is positive. It is to make him win, is to make him successful. Remember, you cannot be successful if those that are close to you do not want you to be successful. And so it is paramount that you help the leader above you to become successful. Leadership lesson number 4 is obedience birth restoration. Obedience birth restoration, again with Naaman. Naaman was given very weird, very unconventional kind of instruction. Go and dip, takal. Go and immerse, takal. What is? Wait a second. This is a commander. This is a champion. This is somebody who is respected, who has the blessing of the state. And Elisha simply says, go and do it. Now, Naaman, despite his pride and arrogance and disbelief, and despising the river Jordan, actually obeyed. And it is said, when he dipped himself the 7 times, his body was completely restored to that of a child. This kind of restoration, because leprosy seems to have taken good root on him. It had taken good toil on him. Once he chose to obey, then good things happened to him. We have a generation of believers. We have a generation of Christians who are naturally rebellious. You shall forgive us when we say it seems that we adore and we exalt rebellion. When people are rebelling against authority, we seem to glorify them. We seem to follow them. But look at this man, the army officer. He humbles himself. He goes even back as a sign of gratitude to thank the man of God and to plead with him. We see him pleading with him, begging him to receive the gift the man, from him. Obedience is very, very important. It is better than sacrifice. We encourage all of us to be obedient to the Lord, because once we obey, God will restore our finances, God will restore our families, God will restore our nation. God is looking for that one person who will obey him. Number 5, look beyond. Look beyond. This little girl who was hurriedly, taken off to a strange land, away from her mother's and father's love, went there. And should we remind you is that Assyrians were hostile people. They were unfriendly against the Israelites. But interesting enough, she was not filled with prejudice, with hatred, with hostility. She actually, on her own violation, willingly, lovingly, and in a caring manner, suggested to the wife of her master that there is a solution. It is her who talked about a prophet back in Samaria who had the ability to heal this master. And she did this out of love. You see, there is what we call loving leadership. Loving leadership simply says that you offer solutions, that you are willingly give ideas that can be able to help those that are in need. Sometimes, especially pastors, people who speak ill against you, people who criticizes your messages, these are the people that you want to punish, people that you want to call heaven fire to burn them down. This little girl, as young as he is, without prestige, without power, without a position of leadership, actually it teaches us that we need to look beyond and help people. Leaders, especially those of you that are in political class, we want to remind you, whether a certain section did not vote you in, it is very important that you also serve them, because these are God's people. You do not need to segregate them or discriminate them. In this country where we've heard that a certain tribe is given preference over other tribes in terms of being given prime jobs, this should be discouraged. Every Kenyan should be given equal opportunity, should be treated with dignity. The space for nepotism, the space for discrimination is nowhere to be seen, as long as we remember that we should not be controlled by nepotism and tribalism. We should not prefer A against B, but always we should act accordingly in a fair manner. Leadership lesson number 6 comes this way. Leadership is determined. Leadership is not determined by age or status. This little girl, who we do not even know her name, is a very wonderful example of leadership. She did not have the power. She did not have the position. She was simply a doulos. She was simply a slave. She was just that other garagaria. Some people would say she was nobody. But we need to tell you this, that it is from the leadership that this little girl exercised in a strange land, away from her parents' love. It is this leadership that she demonstrated that actually brings Second Kings, that actually makes Second Kings very, very interesting. She is this unlikely reader. She is a retro person, but she made what we would call a huge, a wonderful, a wow kind of an effect in the life of Naaman. It is her, out of simply speaking up, out of her confidence, out of her caring attitude, out of her solution finding kind of mindset, that Naaman finally became healed. It is on account of her that Naaman actually transforms from a follower of Rimmon, of idols, worthless, dead, powerless, and just weak, God, that he actually confesses and becomes a comfort of the true Yahweh. This is leadership from unlikely places, and we need to encourage you from wherever it is that you are. God wants you to make an impact from wherever you are. You do not need to have a title, you do not need to have a position, you do not need to have authority. You simply need to do what you are supposed to do with the resources that God has given unto you. Yes, you might be telling me, John, I am simply a sweeper. We encourage you to sweep in such a way that Christ will be honored. You may be the tea girl. We encourage you to make tea in such a way that when you don't make it, the manager will start complaining. The CEO will ask, who has made today's tea? You know, in whatever spaces that we are, we need to make Christ to be honored. And we need to demonstrate leadership. We need to show care. We need to show love. We need to speak up so that we can offer ideas and solutions. We need to leave places better than we found them. And then finally, leadership lessons that we pick from unlikely leaders is from Gehazi. Gehazi is disturbed. He is full of himself, just as Naaman was. He was not contented. And there is this kind of familiarity that comes especially to the church people. They get used to anointing, that they do not have what we call referential fear. Gehazi actually follows Naaman and lies to him that he has been sent by Elisha to get some money, some donations from him. And the question, the leadership lesson here that we want to put across is it's ministry, not money. It's ministry, not money. Allow us to say this. A lot of the clergy and a lot of men and women who are involved in the preaching business, some of them, not everybody, are into it because of money. If money is not forthcoming, then they would not even show up for that ministry. We've had time and time again of gifted, anointed gospel artists who would not show up in an open air as long as the persons that are inviting them are not unless they commit themselves to give themselves to a certain amount of money. Let us say this and say it without any fear or any contradiction. Every time when money becomes the first thing, every time when money becomes the priority, get this here, anointing disappears. We need to say that again. Every time when money becomes the first thing, then you need to get this anointing disappears. And so it is very important. Jesus said it and we shall say it here. Freely were you given, freely give. We are not saying that when a gospel artist comes and presents a song, we do not need to appreciate them. We need to think about a facilitation. That kind of facilitation needs to be adequate. It needs to be reasonable. But we have a lot of problems when the person who is ministering is the one who is pressing the demands. And the demands sometimes are too high, even way beyond the capacity of those that are making the invitation. Money is good, but the love of money, when it is mixed with ministry, it becomes something terrible. We've seen, not once, not twice, a lot of church leaders fighting, embarrassing each other. Some even going to a court to campaign and to say so and so is not the legal leader, is not the right leader, because money is at stake. Remember, God has called us to do ministry. A while ago, we did a sermon on Jesus funding ministry. Jesus was able to do a lot of things. He was able even to pay taxes without asking people becoming oppressing people with money. When money becomes the most important agenda, when money becomes more emphasized than the word, then I think that church is headed for trouble. Well, we can pick quarrels, and we know that some pastors may disagree with us. But remember, God has not called us to ask for money. God has called us to talk about the word. When people are filled with the word, when people are nurtured in the word, they will give money freely. Should we go to the early church? We see the early church was giving freely. They would go out there and sell out their property and bring the whole amount to the disciples just to make ministry effective. What is required is we need to feed the frog. When we feed the frog will fund the ministry. This is Marketplace Media, an online platform that engages, equips, and encourages believers to say in Uwezekana. For those of you that have followed us, thank you very much. My name is John Kimani. In the event that you want to partner with us, please SMS us on the number that is appearing on your screen. But until next Sunday, such a time as this, my name is John Kimani. Remember what you always say here in Uwezekana. God bless you. And please, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, that is Marketplace Media. Let's grow the community. Have a blessed week.